From the Oklahoma newsroom, it's time for another Thunder Thursday. I'm here with our Thunder coverage team. Mike Sherman, our sports editor, is out. Apparently, Anthony's just writing a story as we go here. What are you doing over there?
I'm tweeting out that we are live right now, and you need to be watching us.
Well, if you want to join us, newsok.com/live. You can ask us questions. I'll get them to these guys as fast as we can. But let's introduce who's here. Darnell Mayberry, our lead Thunder writer. Barry Trammell, our lead columnist. And Anthony Slater, the typing...
Do it all.
Do it all. Thunder beat writer. We are brought to you by Wheeler Chevrolet. Head on down I-40 and save yourself some money and some time. Okay, guys, we got to talk about the head coaching situation. Obviously, here on Thunder Thursday, we're just 24 hours removed from the announcement that the Thunder had fired Scott Brooks. Now the question becomes, who is the next guy? Anthony, you wrote today about college guys, and obviously a lot of attention focused on Kevin Ollie, who now says he's no longer a candidate. Billy Donovan, Bill Self. I mean, those names have been thrown out there. Let's talk about positives and minuses with college coaches. Anthony, what in your mind stands out about college coaches as potential Thunder coaches?
Well, I mean, every situation is unique. You talk about Kevin Ollie as a college coach, but there's something he has that a lot of candidates don't have, which is he played for the Thunder. He knows the Thunder organization. He's been here. He's close with Durant. So his situation's unique. The Billy Donovan, who now, especially with Kevin Ollie, we'll see if he's really withdrawing his name. You never know with money and different stuff. But if it's Billy Donovan, who we assume is the favorite at this point, played 44 games back in 1987, and that's the last time he's had any NBA, experience. Never been an assistant, never really done anything. So you just worry about them bringing him into not a Brad Stevens type situation where you can grow with the franchise. They're bringing him into a win now, win or else. Kevin Durant might leave, pressurized, media, the scrutiny is going to be crazy next year. And he's never been through an 82-game season, never dealt with Russell Westbrook. I'm not sure he's ever even met Russell Westbrook. Maybe he has. So there's just concern about bringing an unknown factor into it all.
Seems like a risky situation potentially with a guy who doesn't have much NBA experience. Darnell, in your mind, what are the positives and negatives with some of these college coaches being talked about?
Well, I think the biggest positive is, like Sam Presti said last night, a new voice. These guys have gotten used to Scott Brooks' way of doing things for 7 years, and it wasn't a bad way. It's just sometimes you need a new voice. And I think getting a college coach, someone who sees things a little bit differently, maybe can help these guys out, maybe try to get the most out of them. But then the negative is, these guys haven't coached in the NBA. It's a different game. It's a different speed. It's a different pace. It's a different feel. And there's an adjustment period that you have to take or make. And, I think as long as you get someone who can make that adjustment, I think they're going to be fine.
Barry, I think you've said this. There are some great college coaches, and some, as AC said, you've got guys that have played in the league, or Kevin Ollie, who definitely has a different resume than say a Billy Donovan would. But I'm not saying hiring a college coach would be settling, but the Thunder's going to have its choice of candidates, isn't it?
You would think that out of 25, 30 guys in the world would not be interested in the job. You would think everybody else would be. Right. So this is not a place where you have to really go searching for a coach you like. They're going to be coming to you. And we don't know particularly. Sam was very, very secretive about what he's looking for in deference to Scotty Brooks. But whatever he's looking for is out there. He's going to have the pick of the litter. So a college coach, there's not as much stigma in recent years hiring a college coach because I think, and we talked about this earlier, intelligence and communication is now revered as much as experience. I don't think you're going to see the Thunder hire a 50-year-old NBA lifer unless it's somebody who's been a very successful coach, Tom Thibodeau or somebody like that. But just because somebody got a long NBA resume does not mean they trump Kevin Ollie or the next Brad Stevens or Billy Donovan.
Right.
Interesting name. We talked about it a ton on the podcast because we almost convinced ourselves that this is a possibility, even though it seems pipe dream. Like, he's 68 years old, he's a college coach, but Mike Krzyzewski is one of the more interesting names we can talk about. He comes in.
Convince me, because I'm not convinced.
Well, Barry and Darnell, listen to the podcast if you really want to be convinced.
Would that be the Thunder Buddies podcast?
That would be the Thunder Buddies podcast. iTunes,
plug.
check it out anywhere you want. No, but we're talking about a guy. He's been to the mountaintop in college in different eras. He, back in the '90s, this past, like a month ago he won it all.
Right.
He's got Olympic gold. What's the one thing not on his coaching resume is an NBA championship, and the Thunder would give him an opportunity to win it, a legit opportunity to win an NBA championship next year. Maybe, Mount Rushmore of coaches. I'd present that to him. He's getting up in age. He's done all he can at Duke. If he left Duke, especially coming off the last national championship, I'm sure there'd be an early firestorm of how can you do that. But, he's an absolute legend there. He always will be. If there's any time to move, this would be the time. I know it sounds outrageous, but I think these two are kind of coming to the side that it's somewhat possible.
Didn't I hear you yesterday basically saying, Coach K, that's the most ridiculous thing ever?
I don't
or
think
something
I
to that
think I
effect.
said that.
Okay, all
But
right.
I do think it's a long shot. I don't think it's impossible, though. What AC said, the Thunder can make a case, a pretty good sales pitch.
You believe it?
He's
sold.
on this
Skeptical?
train.
He's ready to go right to Chapel Hill and make the case himself.
Yeah, Chapel.
Durham. Don't listen to that part on the podcast. To me, he would be my first, second, and third choice.
Okay.
I would put all my resources, all my focus and energy into trying to get Coach K here to Oklahoma City. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then you can talk about Kevin Ollie or Billy Donovan or Tom Thibodeau, whoever.
Right.
But I would try to get Coach K. He is obviously the best coach in college basketball. Right there with Greg Popovich, he's one of the two best coaches in the world in basketball. You can't go wrong with him. He's coached Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. They know him.
National team experience, right?
They know him. He knows them. I think he could get the most out of this team. And if you're looking for someone to put you over the top, I think Coach K is definitely that guy.
Well, and let's remember, too, one other thing about Coach K that's interesting is Sam Presti has a great respect for the Duke program
Yep.
and what Coach K has built
doubt.
there. He's hired some of his people.
Kyle Singer would be starting next year if Coach K's here. Sorry, Kevin. 6th man of the year, right?
But, I think that needs to be said, too. I think what they've done at Duke, I think Sam Presti looks at as a guy that, was in the Spurs organization that wants to try to build something sustaining, and he really has to appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What he was saying about, throw all your resources in. To me, I think Coach K is just a phone call and just throw it out there, throw your case out there and say, call if you want it, it's here for you. And, if maybe he needs some time to mull it over. It's very unlikely, but it would be quite interesting if that went down.
Before we get to a couple questions that have popped in here on the newsok.com/live page, one other thing I wanted to ask you guys about. Did you come away from the Sam Presti press conference yesterday having any sense of what's most important to Sam in this hiring? He was so hesitant to say anything about what he's looking for because he felt like that would indicate what Scott Brooks wasn't, that it was really kind of hard to read. But did anybody walk away from the press conference thinking, I think I know sort of what he sees as important here?
I didn't walk away from it last night, but I think you could just go back to his previous statements. All the things that this team has been trying to do for 7 years, and we've written about it, all of us, I believe. A better offense, more structure offensively, more efficiency. The offense is, for the most part, fine. Better defense, more intensity, more stability defensively, things like that. And I think it's the little things, just trying to get guys to pay more attention to doing those little things. Nick Collison talks about a lot, setting solid screens, making sure you're rotating effectively and in the right spots, just getting the most out of guys. And I think Scott Brooks did a great job of that, but I think they feel like they can go to another level. And I think we all would agree that they can go to another level. So I think those are the things that he really wants.
And I think, too, about, you think about those details that Nick Collison and others have talked about. I felt like this was kind of a year where we could see them refine those details. When the season began, you guys remember Kendrick Perkins talking about, this is a year where we need to be thinking about doing things in October, November that matter in May,
Good habits
June.
is what they call them.
Right,
Yep.
right. And I thought this last season would be a year where they would start to be that refined product. Obviously, injuries got in the way, but that's where teams that are young and building become veteran, polished teams. And I thought they had a chance to do that. Obviously got derailed, so seems like that's a next obvious step. You guys walk away from Sam yesterday with any thoughts on what's going to be paramount
I just
here?
went right to my thesaurus. Some of the stuff he was saying.
Socratic approach.
The engine of progress. What else? You had some other lines.
Engine of progress I could handle.
I mean,
Socratic, I was lost.
Yeah. Stimulate. You were pretty interested in that stimulate comment. He didn't really say that much with 40 minutes of talk, and we just kind of wanted some nuts and bolts type stuff that we didn't necessarily get. One thing you got to watch with him is out of left field type hiring, because none of this leaking of sources and is Kevin Ollie. It's not coming from Sam Presti. There's a chance he comes out of left field. With coaching, it's a little different than like a draft pick where he's come out of nowhere with an Andre Robertson and Josh Hustis lately. There's so much interest in this that anything is going to get plucked out, and I'm sure it will be reported. But what's the Spurs assistant?
Chip England?
Oh, well,
and the other guy,
the
Messina?
Messina. I mean, something like that wouldn't entirely surprise me with this guy. Just he's not going to operate under what other people are saying, he should do. He's just what's best for this organization moving forward.
I wonder, too, people are wondering this, Barry. A lot of talk about what role the players have. I mean, he basically said in his press conference, were they consulted about Scott Brooks? No. Now, what you believe that or not is up to you. But what role do Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, what role do they have in this next coach? Barry, what's your sense?
Well, I think that Sam Presti was telling the basic truth in that the players weren't consulted directly on should they keep Scott Brooks, should they hire Coach A, Coach B, Coach K. But
somebody say Coach K.
But I think Sam knows his players, and I think he knows how they would respond to certain situations, including the firing of Scott Brooks. If he thought, or if he knew that firing Brooks would alienate Durant or Westbrook, he wouldn't do it. And I don't think he would do it. I don't think he would fire Scott without knowing that they wouldn't be alienated. Now, that's not saying they wanted Scott fired.
Right.
I personally believe that the players don't necessarily want that responsibility. Some players do. Magic Johnson obviously got Paul Westhead fired 33 years ago. But for the most part, players don't want that. They don't want blood on their hands. They don't want that responsibility.
They don't want to be the bad guy.
At least publicly. I mean, privately, Durant, they had exit interviews last week. Durant, within his exit interview, may have told Sam Presti, maybe we should move in this direction. But there in 0% chance did he want his name out there. He knows how the social media world works.
Oh, yeah.
Everything works these days. If Sam was in his press conference yesterday and said, yeah, we consulted Kevin and he wanted Scott gone. Even if that was the truth, if he said that, that would have just
been a
blown
bombshell.
everything we're talking about today.
I don't think Sam would put Durant on that spot even in a private interview. I mean, I think they would talk generalities, specifics about Kevin, generalities about the team and the franchise. But I don't think Sam Presti would put Kevin Durant on the spot and want him to declare pro or con, I'm fully in Scott Brooks' corner, I'm fully in favor of getting rid of him. I don't think Sam would do that.
I mean, I don't think he said, okay, your choice. Should I fire him? Should I not fire him? I think he asked him what kind of job you think he did. Hey, what if we went in a different direction? Would you be fine with it? Different stuff like that with Westbrook, with a lot of the players.
Jenny, the one thing that I think that Sam did make crystal clear was that whoever this guy is going to be, he's going to come in and he's going to have to buy into the community philosophy, the organizational philosophy. A lot of the stuff that Sam Presti says when he's talking about that kind of puts you to sleep. But, I mean, he did make it clear that he wanted a guy to come in and really buy into the program and the values of this team and this organization. And so I think you're going to see someone who's going to be a company man, someone who's going to come in and really pay attention to the values and stress everything that Sam believes and Clay Bennett, the chairman, believe in. And I think that's going to be huge for them.
I don't remember who had this conversation yesterday in our office, but you bring up a point that I think is maybe a little bit under the radar, and for good reason, because Sam starts talking about that stuff and you do kind of fall asleep. But let's remember that Scott Brooks' family moved back to California, and he still has that off-season home in California. Sam Presti has sunk into this community. He lives here. The wife is here. They just had a baby.
The Bauman Memorial stuff he's been taking a part in.
He's on every major board.
Yeah, every time there's a press conference involving this community, Sam Presti's probably on the dais as a board member. So he is in. He is all in. And I think he expects the next coach to be that same way. No family moving back. He wants somebody who's here, 100% here. I think maybe that's something to keep an eye on as well. Let's get to some of the questions on the newsok.com/live page. Barry wants to know, is Rick, and not you, Barry, another Barry, a B-A-R-R-Y? Obviously
some people when they are critiquing you to me, or if I tweet out one of your columns, they always use, hey, that Barry, and they always use the A.
And they always put another M in your last name too.
Trammell.
Trammell with 2 M's.
I heard somebody call you Trammell.
I've been used to it for 40
When they do that, I don't worry about what the rest they have to say.
All right, let's talk about this other Barry who has a question. He says, is Rick Carlisle a legitimate option? Silence, crickets. It doesn't sound like it.
This Mavs, the only reason that makes me think it's possible is how much this Mavs situation seems to be blowing up right now.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously have the injuries and then the Rajon Rondo situation. So if Rick Carlisle sees, if he doesn't like that the Rajon Rondo trade was made, which it sounds like he wasn't even for when it happened, and that really goes downhill and maybe him and Cuban are at odds, he works himself out of there and goes to the Thunder. But I just... I find
But this Rajon Rondo situation, is it a good thing that a coach is feuding with a point guard? Isn't that a warning sign?
I don't think we can compare the two. I mean,
Okay.
Rajon Rondo is a different breed of cat.
It's true.
Russell Westbrook is not as bad as Rajon Rondo. Russell Westbrook has his quirks and his tendencies.
It could always be worse.
But it can always be
And
worse.
the thing look, I think Rick Carlisle is actually a pretty good ego manager. The way he, through that whole roster with Monte Ellis, with it all. I don't even think he's necessarily feuding with Rajon Rondo. He's just looking at Rajon Rondo like, dude, you're not that good anymore. You can't do this on the court. I don't want to play you because he's not really helping the team. With Russell Westbrook, if Russell Westbrook is performing like he's performing, Rick Carlisle is fine with that. He just wants to win.
Yeah. Do you think he's legit, Barry?
I think it's going to be too big of a problem contractually to consider it. He's got a year left on his contract. I don't think Mark Cuban's interested in seeing his franchise coach go 200 miles up the road.
Mark Cuban's a big fan of Oklahoma City, though.
Seems like problem. A little bit too much problematic.
All right. Sorry to break that to the other Barry. Another question. Let's talk a little bit more about these Spurs assistants. You alluded to Ettore Messina and then also Chip England out there. What do you guys think about those two guys as potential options?
I don't know the first guy. I don't know him. I mean,
Messina?
The first I heard of him was on the podcast about 30 minutes ago.
He's an international guy. He's in a lot of ways like Darko, the assistant they brought in. He's head coached internationally a ton. It said he was a Lakers consultant in 2011-12. First year under the Spurs. The Spurs love him, which means Sam Presti probably loves him. So that's all I have to know about him.
I'm worried about the international element, though. That hasn't proven to be great. Mike D'Antoni coached in Italy and did a great job once he got over here with Phoenix and went south after that. But David Blatt's had some problems adjusting with the Cavaliers. Part of that is coaching LeBron, and that whole circus is difficult. But we got a little circus of our own here.
It's only going to be a bigger circus next year if anybody is
the
questioning.
international thing scares me.
What about those Spurs guys, Darnell?
Well, I told you, I don't know the first guy. The
Right.
second guy is more of a shooting coach. I don't see him being a head coach anytime ever, really. I mean, the guys I talked to in San Antonio say that he doesn't even want to be a bench assistant. So, I don't see him being a
He's a second
head
row
coach.
guy?
Yeah.
All right, well,
so
okay.
Maybe he can help Andre Robertson shot, but I don't think he's going to be
Andre's
head
from
coach.
San Antonio.
Yeah.
Hey,
If he could come and help and turn Andre Robertson into a good three-point shooter.
sign me up.
Yeah. I mean,
He'd be the head coach.
Yeah.
Coach the Olympic team.
That would make
Hey,
this
y'all
team
get off
good.
Andre Robertson. I love his defense.
You do.
I do too.
By the way, we are going to talk players here in just a little bit because this is the.
I got a question when we get to that.
Okay, well, we're not there quite yet. Let's do a little bit more
Hey, calm
questions.
down, Chuck.
Yeah, are we okay with that lineup? By the way, we're sort of in a sort of TNT mode here. You're Shaq.
Barkley always rips on Shaq, and I got no problem ripping on Maybe.
No, we know that. We know that for sure. By the way, if you guys want to ask questions, newsok.com/live is how you get questions to these guys. I'll try to get to as many of these as possible. David had a question about Billy Donovan. We sort of talked about him. Let's talk a question from Anonymous, although this is a totally legit question.
Anonymous source, he's on. Ask him
D.
who he
Fisher.
thinks.
D. Fish. Derek Fisher. What do you guys think?
He's locked into a big deal in New York. He's committed there. Phil Jackson's committed there. And do we know if he's a good coach? We talk
Great
about
question.
them wanting a new voice. I don't know. Yeah, I just really don't see it, to be honest.
I think it would have been more likely if he'd been a complete novice and had gone straight from playing to coaching the Thunder. Than if he'd gone to New York, gone south quick in New York. It's not Phil Jackson's fault. It's not Derek Fisher's fault. It's not Carmelo Anthony's fault. They got bad ownership. Nobody could do anything about it. But it's not a good situation. I I don't see Derek coming back.
You know, it's interesting you bring up that novice factor, which he was a year ago, and the Thunder decided to retain Scott Brooks after last season. And the question was asked last night, and I thought it was a good one. You know, why not make this move last year? I know this is not answering the question of Derek Fisher, Darnell, but make the move last year versus this year. I thought that was a good question.
Yeah, but I think the writing was sort of on the wall. I mean, you go back to the 2012 finals when he played Kendrick Perkins way too much. The next season when they matched up, I believe it was with Houston in the first round, and he played Perkins way too much then. So, like, you had these trends that Scott Brooks kept doing over and over, and people want to use the word stubbornness. I think that might have been a little strong, but you could see some weaknesses there, and I think over time it just built and built, and they had a body of work that they could really see and understand and analyze. And I think they really wanted to give him another year this year to try to give him an opportunity to prove that he could be the guy. And then the injuries came in, and it was a great question, because if they made the playoffs, then what do you do? If everyone's healthy and you don't think he's the guy, but they win 60 games or one or two seed, then what do you do? And still come up short of the championship, you still got that same tough decision. But I think it was just made easier. The fact that they did have so many injuries, the fact that they did miss the playoffs for the first time in 6 seasons. So it was a great question, and I just think that there was enough of a body of work there for Sam to feel comfortable doing this.
I would say people act like it was like a black and white decision. Like, he's for sure okay. We had to fire him this year, and then they act like last year they were just went to the offseason like, no, he's our coach. Who knows if we don't know. Maybe they got to a point last year where they were thinking, oh, maybe we should. Okay, no, we'll give him one more year. Mm-hmm. It tipped over the edge this year. We don't know how close.
Very true. I know you guys on the Thunder Buddies podcast break down tons of candidates, so people will want to watch that for sure.
Got a plug?
iTunes /
But the one last question I've got as it relates to the coaching vacancy now is timeline. Sam Presti did not commit to any sort of timeline. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about candidates like Tom Thibodeau, he's still in the playoffs. Who knows how long his team might be playing? But is there any concern about this being an open job for a month, or who knows? I mean, do you guys have a sense on that and what Sam Presti might be thinking?
I think the timeline is different for whoever the candidate might be. Mm-hmm. For instance, Kevin Ollie, his buyout goes from $5 million to $4 million on June 1st. There's no reason to hire him on May 26th. Yeah. Wait a week and you save $1 million. Yeah. Now, monopoly money is prevalent in the NBA, but it's still $1 million. So a Thibodeau or a Tyronn Lue or whoever might be with a current team, you have to wait until they're finished. So I think it's a case of somebody might be available now, but other guys, they might have to wait, and there's absolutely no hurry. The NBA schedule, particularly the Thunder, which has been in 3 of the last 4 West Finals, the Thunder has a calendar set up where nothing's going on outside of college scouting. Nothing's going on until the middle of June.
Right.
I was going to say the only thing is they do have a very important 14th overall pick.
At least.
You're right. It could jump. Very unlikely, but it could jump to 1, 2, or 3.
Sam Presti mentioned that last night. Yeah. That was good. He slid that in. Hey, we got the 14.
So that, you probably want whoever's going to be the coach in on the decision-making process.
So if they win the lottery and can get Okafor, it's more of a sales job to Coach K. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Hey, that's about the chance they have again, Coach K, is the chance they got to win in the lottery. But there's
it's a package deal. Is that at all a concern? They've got young guys, Kanter, who we'll get to in a minute here, probably would have been in a more of a developmental phase, but now he's in a recovery phase. But, younger guys like Steven Adams, Robertson, guys that would otherwise be working. Is that a concern, or does that just carry on regardless?
I think it does. We're thinking about one coach when the NBA is littered with 6, 7 coaches on every staff. So you can fill in your staff to help you with the player development aspect and whatever else. I don't think it matters really when they make this hire. I think they've got to make a slam dunk hire with this coach. And however long it takes is how long it takes.
Hey, we don't know. You mentioned it right there. Is there going to be is it the entire staff going to be gone?
I'd be surprised if he retains, whoever the next guy is, I'd be surprised if they retain the majority of that staff. maybe 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah.
But that's the unfortunate part about it. It's not just Brooks. These are all lives involved, people with families.
And
they're
aren't
gonna
making $4 million a year.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
they're going to be out of a job probably here in the next, we'll find out soon.
And I think you'd have to wait to hire the assistants until you hire the head man.
Oh,
so they
right.
might just basically have 0 coaches until the head man's hired. One other thing, you mentioned, the players practicing. This is actually their time off. They're all
Right.
traveling. You're going to have a guy in place by draft and summer league. That's when it really kind of cranks out.
All right, guys, let's talk about some player stuff because we haven't Thunder Thursday since the end of the season and lots to talk about. Let's start with Enes Kanter, a guy that is a free agent, but he's talking like he'd like to stay. Sam Presti made no qualms about the fact that they did that deal thinking they want this guy around. Sounds like it's not a done deal, obviously, but Darnell, we're heading down that path, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. Enes Kanter wants to be here. He wants to obviously get paid. He wants to play a lot of playing time, and the Thunder wants him. And Sam Presti said last night they wouldn't have made that trade if they didn't feel like they could re-sign him. And with the salary cap going up, I don't see any way that they don't re-sign him. They're going to have to take a major. They're going to have to take a major chunk major way into the luxury tax. You know what I'm trying to say.
I knew where you were going.
They're going to have to take a major dip into the luxury tax
There you go.
next season to make it all work. But after that, when the television money comes in and this cap goes up through the roof, then I think they're going to be okay.
One thing to note on the Kanter situation, somebody on the live chat today was like, why not just use that money and get Wes Matthews or a 2-guard where we could really use help? They can retain Enes Kanter by going way over the cap because he's their own guy, restricted, coming off a rookie contract. They cannot use that money to go out.
Yeah.
It's
not an apples and
forbidden.
apples.
Yeah,
They're restricted on unrestricted free agents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they can't do that.
The interesting thing I find about Enes Kanter is he wants to stay. They clearly want him to stay, but the Thunder organization and frankly media and fans, we're all like these women who marry a man and then immediately want him to change. I mean, they get Enes Kanter, they want Enes Kanter, but now we want him to change. We want him to start playing defense, which he never has, and maybe he's capable, maybe he's not.
Don't speak for all of us. Just get buckets, man.
But there's talk about, you threw out a couple of numbers that sort of actually made me feel better, 10 to 12 million. I've seen even higher for Enes Kanter. If they get up in the $15 million range, that's a ton of money for a guy that's a defensive liability.
It's going to be closer to 15 than it is 10.
Yeah,
they offered Reggie Jackson 12,
And he didn't take it.
and he's a guard. Big men get paid more
Yeah,
than guards
that's right.
in this league, so he's going to be
Yeah,
closer to
that
15.
plus everyone knows the cap's going up.
Yeah,
so they know
that's a lot of
15 million
money
now is not 15 million anymore.
For a
And
guy,
he might not even start.
he
Right.
might not
Steven
start.
Adams might
I
be
would
the
not
starter
start
next
him.
year.
I would not start him.
That, you know what's funny? I can kind of get into the question I had now. I mean, going into next season, assuming that it was going to be Scott Brooks, we all think Andre Robertson's the 2-guard. He might go
It's a great
Adams.
question.
Now
I
that
know
there's
where
going to
you're
be a new
going.
coach, I mean, things could be completely different. A new coach may come in and go, yeah, you're pretty good at defense, Andre Robertson, but your shot, you're not in the rotation. Jeremy Lamb, I really like that. You're starting. I think with this new coach, it's going to be a fascinating training camp with position battles and everything. You have your 3 stars, if healthy, locked into starting spots. But beyond that, how this rotation, because it's very
Does
deep,
Deion Waiters move in?
materializes.
Does your
Tomorrow.
man Kyle Singler move in?
I don't know who they're going to hire. I don't claim to be an insider, but I think I'm on pretty solid ground here. Sam Presti is not going to hire somebody that doesn't think fairly highly of Andre Robertson.
You think that's like a requirement? Yes, sign here. You have to.
You just have to appreciate
Your
why
body
Andre Robertson plays.
Right.
All right, check initial here. It's your buyout number. Initial here. You will start Andre Roberson every
I
game.
didn't
He's
say
healthy.
start, but I don't think Andre
Appreciate.
Robertson's fallen out of the rotation.
I appreciate it. It's an
And
interesting
I'm pretty sure
question,
Jeremy
Bring in
Lamb
Mike
is not falling in.
Hey, bring in Mike D'Antoni and Jeremy Lamb's in and Andre Robertson's
Well,
out.
though. I don't think they're bringing in Mike D'Antoni. but,
Don't even mention that to this guy.
I think what you said, although I disagree with these women that want to change their husbands.
Yeah.
That's
whoa.
not an opinion. That's
That's
fairly documented fact.
It's not proven fact. But
Women,
Can we
men,
move
Here
on?
we go. Here
men
we
get
go.
married. married.
can move on.
Men get married and hope their wife never changes. Women get married and try to change their husband immediately.
Are men better drivers than women too, Barry?
No, generally not. No, generally not. Women are very, and that's documented too. The insurance companies will tell you that.
Well, what I wanted to ask before we got into that was this whole question of Kanter and his defense, because, people want him to play defense, but is it crazy to think that he couldn't become a good defensive player? Look, guys, let's rewind. I think we've all either written or talked about this. He went to a high school where he didn't have to play defense. Yeah. He went to college when he didn't get on the floor. So, how much focus is he given to defense? He's in Utah where maybe they talked about it, but in one ear, out the other because things were so rocky.
Yeah, he was immature there. He's still, in a lot of ways, immature. He can get better. He has some skill. I think he has some limitations.
Right.
But he has some skill. Look, he's going to be a better defensive player when he's 27 than he is now. He's going to be a better offensive player when he's 27 than he is now. It's just how much better can he get? Can he get at least serviceable where you're not watching how good he is on that end and going like this on the other end?
Maybe it's far-fetched, Darnell, because we talk about this from time to time. A guy like Reggie Jackson couldn't play defense.
Right.
But why not? He's one of the most athletic guys out there. And I love Reggie Jackson, but he was always athletic. He could move his feet. He was seemingly a smart guy, but didn't ever play great defense.
I got news for you guys. Some players just don't care about defense.
Good point.
Enes Kanter might be a guy who just doesn't care about defense, and that just might be the reality with Enes Kanter.
There's ways you can hide him, too, with Serge Ibaka coming back and different things you can do. And if he's coming off the bench, I've talked with people about this. Hey, if he is coming off the bench in like a six-man role, he's playing backup big men most of the time.
Man.
He's not going to have to. He's going to have to do some.
Adams. I'd start Adams and Dion Waiters.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to exploit mismatches against those guys and not get exploited if he's JaVale McGee. He's guarding guys like that.
What other off-season player situations are you guys going to be keeping an eye on? Obviously, I joked about Kyle Singler before, but his contract's up. The rest of these guys, for the most part, on the hook. Potential trades with Perry Jones, Jeremy Lamb. What are you guys going to be keeping an eye on?
They got 17. They got 17 spots and 15 roster spots and 17 players, counting Houston's and the first round draft pick.
Right.
So
Something's
people's got to go.
Yeah.
The money's on Jeremy Lamb and Perry Jones. Mm-hmm. Trade them along. Maybe swap second round draft picks and somebody will take them.
Got to think there's an Eastern Conference team or a bottom feeder that would just take a flyer on one of those guys. Philadelphia, you got like 10 second-round picks.
Or Charlotte.
Throw two and take Perry Jones and Jeremy Lamb, and somebody's got to get minutes for the Sixers. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be their draft picks, but they're going to stash another one. Yep. Anyway.
Obviously, this is an off-season that'll be filled with guys getting rest and getting healthy. Is there any reason to think that we'll, see Kevin Durant in any form or fashion before training camp gets underway?
Basketball camp.
He tweeted.
True.
Somebody asked him, hey, on Twitter, and he responds to Twitter users probably more than he should. They asked him, hey, man, like when they saying you can get back on the court? And he tweeted at the guy August 1st is when they're telling him he can get back on the court. Mm-hmm. Like I said, my source is him on Twitter, but, we need to watch out for his activity as the summer progresses. I'm sure he'll be Instagramming himself on the court when he's back on the court.
Right, yeah.
So we need to monitor that stuff. That is, really, in a lot of ways, even more than the coach, the number one storyline going into next season. If he's healthy, they're a title contender. If he isn't, they're not.
And, the other guy that captivated us all season, obviously, Russell Westbrook. And, these awards are starting to flow out. We've seen Defensive Player of the Year, Kawhi Leonard. We've seen some other awards, obviously, in coming days. MVP, All-NBA team will be announced. It seems unlikely he's the MVP, but he may not be All-NBA, right, Darnell?
Yeah, I think he's probably going to finish either 4th or 5th on the MVP ballot. And then All-NBA, I think he'll be second team with Chris Paul. Steph Curry, James Harden, I think they'll be 1 and 2 on All-NBA first team.
Where was he on your MVP ballot, Mr. Mayberry?
He was not on my MVP ballot.
Wow.
I can't say
Yeah,
MVP.
I can't believe it either.
Is that a top three?
That's the top
That's the top 5.
Top
I
five.
went with Chris Paul and Anthony Davis as 4 and 5. Or LeBron 3, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis 4 and 5.
You had a vote?
I would disagree with Darnell. I had votes for a lot of things this year. One of the ones I didn't have was MVP.
Okay.
They kind of do different things. If I had one, it would have been Westbrook 4th.
Barry, you're on the record as saying you think LeBron is the MVP.
I would have done Curry as the MVP, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Westbrook's as valuable as anybody, but the Thunder didn't make the playoffs, so it's not really anything to.
Would you not have him in the top 5 like you called?
I would have had him. I'd have probably had him third or fourth.
Yeah. Did you not put him on your ballot because of the playoff situation?
I mean, it's not just that, but if you look at a lot of what he did this year, he had the incredible 2 months. I think it was February and March.
Well, he won Player of the Month February, March, and April.
So he really he's really struggled in January.
He did miss 15 games.
He missed 15 games. His team didn't make the playoffs. They didn't really beat good teams. So as much as he entertained us, his numbers really didn't equate to winning, especially against good teams and when it mattered. I mean, what they go 3-7 down the stretch. So I just think those other guys put together a more complete body of work, especially Steph Curry and James Harden. I voted James Harden MVP. Steph Curry was second, LeBron was third, and then Chris Paul, Anthony Davis fourth and fifth, I believe, in that order. But to me, all 5 of those guys had a more impressive body of work, not to mention Russell Westbrook defensively, in my opinion, could have been much better this year. So there's a lot of things that you could love for Russell Westbrook.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things that he left to be desired, in my opinion.
Well, and I think when we started to sort of explore the possibility that he was going to be a serious MVP candidate, I thought the one thing that would hold him back was team record. And he still had a chance to make up for it
Right.
if they made a push at that point. If they make a push and win the Northwest Division, because at that point it was still on the table. It obviously didn't happen, and those things you've got to factor it in when you're splitting hairs between guys that are as great as James Harden, Steph Curry, LeBron James. I mean, you got to weigh something out, and I'm sure people had to look at the record, but I mean, he was must-see TV for the last
And let me say
months of
this:
the season.
if I had 6 spots, he'd probably be number 6.
most entertaining player maybe, but
Definitely,
not necessarily.
he might win community service.
He might. He's got
Award.
a good chance.
Sounded
at
like
it.
he wanted
There you
that. I don't agree with him, but it sounded like he might have wanted that
You
one.
don't believe him.
I don't believe him.
Yeah.
I mean, community is more important than NBA. But,
We'll
yes.
see. We'll see if he wins that one. All right, guys, great stuff today. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.